Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Enough to Keep Going podcast. This is episode number 83, and I am your host, Osiris Prime. This week, we are going into the deep dive. We're going to roll into some news stories here tonight, some highs, some lows, a little bit of both here. I think on everything that we're talking about tonight. But first, let's talk about our co-hosts. Tonight, we have one, Mr. Captain Picard himself, Mr. Swiss Guard. Swiss, how's it going?
It's going well. I guess it's always nice to be compared to Picard, I guess.
Yeah, I stepped you up this time instead of Riker. I gave you a Picard, but I think you got the shirt for him.
Yeah, but buying a $20 T-shirt online, it doesn't really do like the comparison. Just like I haven't earned the comparison.
That's all right. Hey, they're gonna have a new. Speaking of Picard, they're gonna have a new series out. Are you gonna watch that when it comes out?
Maybe someday, but since I'm still in like 90s Star Trek, it's not likely that I'm going to be able to get to 21st century Star Trek.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe if you power through them. And also, we have Mr. DBQ Hams. DB, how are you tonight?
I'm doing just fine.
You got a blue shirt. You don't have a red shirt, so you're safe tonight.
I'm safe. So I had to see who I was going to be compared to if I'm stuck over in the transporter bay, making sure that everybody comes back, and then getting my own spin-off series in DS9. So,
yeah. How about Guinan? You want to be Guinan?
Just hanging out, pouring drinks for people.
Yeah,
sure.
Showing people stuff, giving them advice.
She had awesome purple hats, man.
Giving the captain advice. I mean, she was telling the captain what to do.
That's right. She lived for a long time.
Oh yeah, she was eternal. All right.
Excellent. Well, that is not what we're here to talk about tonight, though. I mean, we probably could.
We can spin this into an entertainment podcast.
This is what happens when Agasicles is not here. We just see he gets to have all his other geek outlets with 16 podcast shows every week, and we have to just cram it all into one awkward 45 to 70 minute time period.
That's right. Yeah, you never know how long this is going to go, but we'll try to keep it fairly short here. I'll try to keep us on track. All right. So tonight we have what we're going to call highlights and lowlights, like I said earlier, on news stories here. So up first, we have an announcement for the Nintendo Switch, of course. And you know how I like to talk about Nintendo. But we have a new Pokemon game or games, Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, were announced this past week. This is going to be in the, I don't know even how to say this, but Galar, I guess, or Galar region. Of the Pokemon, and it kind of looks like through the trailer that they showed some of the gameplay, almost like a British, kind of British and Londonish kind of area that they're going for here. Some of the parts almost look kind of steampunkish too, that when they're kind of walking around the city, excuse me, the city area. But so that was announced. That's coming out later this year, at the end of the year, probably around November, December, I would assume. I'm trying to remember when Go came out. I forgot. I was going to look that up. I think it was like October or November, I believe.
Go was end of October, I think, early November. But yeah, it seems like their Pokemons usually end up releasing November, right before Thanksgiving holiday shopping time. But I could see where they could also hold it off until, depending on how hot it's going to come in and how much they're still in development, holding it off until the kind of Smash time period, which was the first week of December.
Yeah, the big December release like they like to do. Wasn't Mario in December too, or no?
Mario Odyssey was in October.
Oh, it was in October.
Looks like Let's Go was in November 16th.
All right. So along with the gameplay, they actually showed off the 3 starter Pokemon. Normally, the normal grass, fire, and water types. There's Grookey, which looks like a monkey. Scorbunny, which is, it's in the name, it's a bunny, it's a rabbit. And then Sobble, which is some kind of lizard type creature, is the water type. So, and there's some debates online about who's the favorites already. Haven't really seen anything of them, but I don't know how people are picking favorites already. But
how can you not? It's obvious. There's only one legitimate choice.
What's that one?
Scorbunny, of course.
Oh, Scorbunny! Come on, man. Grookey's the one I'm going with. DB, you got a favorite yet?
I'll be surprised on how many of us still remember those names a month from now, and we'll get back into them, right? Yes, I like
the gauntlet down. So
I like Grass Monkey. That Sounds fun.
There we go. See?
Yeah.
2-1. I'm assuming Agasicles would pick. I would say he'd probably pick the bunny too.
I'm gonna go with Grass Monkey because he came out and he's got his own third release Pokemon Gun. So
That's right. So this is.
did you see that story? Right? I mean,
No, I didn't.
Oh, so this was somebody online had made a mock-up of a third image, right? Sword, shield, and then gun, and it had like the wolf head, but a green gun for it. And then I believe it was either a Portuguese or a Mexican news magazine or website picked it up and treated it as an official third Pokemon release. So there's my news story for the week is my fake Pokemon news.
All right. I might have saw something about that. I don't know. I think I just saw it. I saw it in passing. But anyways, yeah. So I mean, that was pretty much it. I mean, they had a direct for this. Kind of dropped out of, I guess, kind of out of nowhere. It was Pokemon Day when this came out, so they kind of threw that direct in the morning. It was only like 7-8 minutes, so they showed the trailer. Kind of had. What was the director or producer of the game? He talked for just a little bit, kind of introduced things. But that was pretty much it. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of information that they released yet. I'm sure we'll get a whole big thing, come E3. I know Nintendo likes to do a theme around their floor space during E3, so maybe this will be it. I could see them maybe doing some kind of like British little, street or something like that, or something like that. So we'll see what happens. But I'm excited for this. From the trailer, and this is kind of a downer for me, but it looks like we got the random battles back from the old school Pokemon games, unlike Go, where you can actually see the Pokemon running around, but you kind of see the character walking around like on a path, and there's kind of tall grass on either side, and he jumps into the tall grass or starts walking through the tall grass, and all of a sudden boom, he gets into a battle. So, and I didn't see any Pokemon running around at the time, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully. Maybe that was just like a random thing, and they'll surprise us and have everybody out in the overworld, but or maybe they'll have like a thing where you can switch it on and off. That would be kind of cool. Just kind of please everybody, but we'll see what happens. And I know this was our highlight for this show, but I'm gonna bring it down just a little bit. There is some when Pokemon Let's Go Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu came out last year. There's some, people kind of grumbling, this isn't, mainline Pokemon, there's no random battles, there's no breeding or, anything like that in there, and all this other stuff that, the mainline games always had. Fast forward to now, or last week when they announced this game, we get, mainline Pokemon, it looks like, so far as we can tell. But, people are grumbling online about, the Pokemon gameplay is not evolving. It's like, come on, guys. Can we just stop? I mean, we don't know really anything solid on this game yet. Can we just, stop the grumbling about, this and that, and just kind of at least wait until we get more information? But I don't. It just kind of irked me that, they were bemoaning, Let's Go, and now they're bemoaning this one because it's not evolving. It's just like, everybody wants, Zelda, Breath of the Wild, open world, do whatever you want kind of gameplay, and I don't know if that will work in this type of game. And there's all kind of offshoots that they do for the Pokemon games. Pokemon Dungeon and all these other little kind of games that they had in the past. If you want something different, there's always stuff like that. Even Let's Go is different, from obviously from past Pokemon games. So I guess you just can't please everybody all the time. But that was just kind of my grumble of the week. So I usually don't try not to do that, but. Gascles isn't here, so somebody has to grumble.
I think you hit on the actual theme of this episode is, oh, come on, guys. Really? Yeah, no, I think I'm not surprised that there's random battles back. That was definitely one of the conversations around Let's Go, and we talked about it here. We all really enjoyed, at least the three of us really enjoyed Let's Go. But at the same time, I could see them thinking about it in terms of balance and in terms of the competitive scene, and that having the ability to see who you are potentially running into kind of changes the grinding dynamic of a Pokemon game. And you know, I could also see a case where that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you know, it is the internet, so let's give everybody a chance to complain about it before they'll go out and buy both editions. So
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, all these people are grumbling, but you know, they'll go out and buy it. I guess the other thing too, even with the Pokemon in the overworld, I mean, there are still times where I'm like, you know, trying to traverse through the area, and all of a sudden this, you know, Pokemon just jumps in front of me, and I hit it anyway. So it's kind of, you know, it's kind of like a random thing, anyways. But you know, it was cool. But whatever. But I think I don't know. Swiss, did you have any other comments on this?
No, I mean it looks cool. I personally like the fact that it's not eschewing the random battles, and like DB said, it makes sense for Nintendo to have kind of a spectrum of Pokemon games, so people can play what, you know, they're into and still be kind of pulled into the Pokemon universe, and thereby, you know, incentivized to purchase Pokemon toys and accessories and whatever. So, you know,
Happy Meals.
Yeah. So I'm personally not bothered about it. Like, I've been playing a lot of Octopath Traveler, and I'm kind of finding the whole classic JRPG random battle kind of refreshing. Like you said, like everything needs to be Zelda Breath of the Wild. Well, no, it doesn't. You know, we have genres for a reason, and I don't feel like trying to shoehorn a game that's kind of, you know, grindy and the goal is to catch all the Pokemon. That doesn't fit in like a quest-based open world type scenario. It just I think it would be clunky if they tried to do that. I like the fact that they added Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu to their portfolio, but I also like the fact that they're saying we're not going to abandon the series' roots here.
Yeah,
I think that's a good way to think about it, Swiss. That, you know, Nintendo's strive to get a Pokemon game out once a year, and not every year they hit it, but you know, in the last decade, there are more years than not that have had a Pokemon game released. And so if they get into some type of rotation where you get a Let's Go game and you get a mainline game, I could see that allows for different development paths, and also the ability to kind of, as you said, pitch that and sell it to different audiences too.
yeah, and I could see maybe that they'll do, you know, kind of like an Activision or EA where they kind of bounce back and forth between each one, you know, every other year, kind of like Call of Duty does, or you know, Battlefield and Battlefront. So you know, they can always do that. And you know, and Let's Go was pretty well received as far as I could tell. So we'll see what happens. And Let's Go was what it was a remake of the very first Pokemon game, Yellow, I believe, or yeah. So you know, whatever the next two are after that one, they can always do that with the Let's Go mechanics and all that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
You didn't really say on this podcast that the first Pokemon game was Pokemon Yellow.
I think so. I'll come to Prime's defense here. I think what he meant was that Let's Go is more or less a remake of Yellow and not a remake of Red, Blue, Green. Because of the fact that you have somebody following you, that there's the quests are just a little more streamlined, so it does fit into that Yellow mold, which is not one of the original ones. But
that's what I meant.
It is still in the original Kanto region. So how's that, Swiss? Does that count? Can you can I stay on the ship, Captain?
I'll accept it.
I'm gonna get put into an airlock here soon. So let's move on. So from squeaky clean Nintendo to the underbelly of the internet, Swiss, what do we got up next? Or I'm sorry, DB, what do we got up next?
Either one of us could talk about this game. I mean, so this was last week that THQ Nordic, so this is the developer, or at least the publisher, of things like the Darksiders series and Saints Row and a number of strategy games, and they continue to kind of pick up a variety of licensees. But THQ Nordic announced and then held an Ask Me Anything, an AMA, on 8chan. And so 8chan is the underbelly, as you said, Prime, right? The underbelly of 4chan, which is questionable enough, but 8chan has been blocked by Google. It has had a reputation for child pornography. It has had a reputation for hate speech and other things. And here, officially, THQ Nordic goes on this venue to do an Ask Me Anything, and I think there was a lot of speculation about whether or not that how this happened, how this, where there was a PR breakdown. But and I think that there are some conflicting evidence that occurred around this, right? That right shortly afterward, that THQ did issue a statement saying they did not do, this is a quote, without doing my proper due diligence and understanding the history and controversy of this site. But at the same time, while they were in the middle of the Ask Me Anything, they were making references to things, and in terms of like, oh, well, it's not as bad as some of the other stuff on here, right? I mean, that they were hinting at things or using language that definitely allowed people or encouraged people to think that they were aware of the platform that they were on.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
They're winking at the audience.
Yes, very much so. And again, the hard part about that is how much of that is the the executives, and how much of that is whoever the PR person that set this up. I mean, you don't quite know that, but it's still coming out through the same channels. So they sat for almost a week without really an apology, with that they came out and kind of at first kind of stepped back and said that they were doing an investigation, and that how this happened. And it wasn't really until just yesterday, on the 4th, that they officially came out and apologized. The co-founders came out to apologize about using it. Um, eh, so I think the interest. Goes right back to Prime statement of, oh, come on, guys, really, right? Like that idea of somebody knew about this, that it wouldn't have taken, I don't know, it wouldn't have taken anybody more than a quick Google search to figure out where they were potentially going to do and Ask Me Anything. And this is not like this is an upstart company just hungry for press, right? Like, potentially, if they were going to try to do an Ask Me Anything other places, they probably have enough followers to be able to do that. I don't know. I mean, Swiss, you have sat in front of a classroom and encouraged thinkers and students to think about their information. I'm a librarian, and I talk about this all the time. Like, how much of this is stupidity, and how much of this is they got caught doing something that they didn't think was actually going to be that big of a problem?
I think I don't know. I just don't underestimate the ability for people to do stupid things, I guess. Never bet against human stupidity. But yeah, I know, like a few of the I teach a little bit, not as much as you do, DB, but some of the topics that I do cover include responsibility when you're using the internet. And I come at it from a corporate angle, in that you're on your company's equipment, you're on the company network. The company's going to dictate what you're allowed to do, and don't be stupid. That's like the theme, don't be stupid. And even beyond that, when you're applying for jobs, it's very easy for an employer to look back and see what you've been doing. Don't be stupid, be responsible. You're responsible, and you're supposed to have common decency, when you're interacting with people in the real world. And then you go online and people, just the foolish instincts seem to take over, and people turn off their filters. So if the theme is don't be stupid, really we're just asking why. I don't, what benefit does it have to go there? And whether Brock felt that it wasn't a big deal, like maybe he, for whatever reason, I had no idea 8chan existed before this story came out, so like I'm ignorant. But whether he knew it existed or not, or knew that much about it, a quick Google search would tell you. And whether you felt that it was being unfairly marginalized, or whether you felt like, I don't care that it's a cesspool, it's not a cesspool, it is a cesspool, but I don't care, whatever, you have to know how the rest of social media is going to react. Like, that's your job, to know how this rest of social media is going to react. If it has that reputation, whether you agree with the reputation or not, by you going on there, there's going to be an effect. So what benefit did he think that it would have for THQ Nordic? That's kind of where I'm at. Like you said, he could have gone anywhere else to do an AMA and had the same, if not more. Like, I'm just ignorant, goody two shoes dad guy. I don't want to know about the dark underbelly of the internet. But I know that AMAs exist on Reddit. You could probably access a wider audience if you go there. But apparently it was more important for him to signal his countercultural coolness. I don't know. Like, what is he trying to signal with that? That's like what I can't fathom.
So I want to go back here because you name dropped Brock. So this is Philip Brock, who's the PR and marketing manager for THQ Nordic. That is the one who agreed to do the AMA. That this is exactly right? And looking at Polygon story, Polygon did a nice analysis of this, right? That there is a variety of issues that would pop up if anybody did a search on 8chan. But then, that idea of the stupidity of not knowing, but I think you're right. Like, they did wink at the audience, because here's the Twitter post as they were getting started, and I quote, "The opportunity was here and we took it. We got approached in a very friendly and polite manner, and we were assured that said person will take care of the nasty stuff. So here we are." So even in their announcement about doing this, there's that wink to the audience of, yeah, we know there's some nasty stuff going on, but we're here. So you're right. I wonder how much of this is like they were trying to get at a different, right? I don't even know how you spin this in a positive way. Like, they were thinking that they were going to get their cool kid cred for being a rebel.
Edgy. Yeah, like being a rebel. But what the backlash is going to be. Like, it's not, I don't know. I don't understand it. But.
Yeah, no, I agree, right? And then, I mean, the apology did not come from Philip Brock. The apology came from Lars Wingfors. So he is the CEO and co-founder, and so this is where it gets a little kind of corporate-y as well, is that there's THQ Nordic AB, and then there is the gaming wing, which is THQ Nordic GmbH. It's just a subsidiary, right? But that's still the idea of, so this is the parent coming out. This is the older brother coming out. This is your boss, right? Going back to your class of corporate responsibility. This is your boss coming out and saying, yeah, we as a company apologize. So how much of this, and where the internal politics of all this have happened, what was Brock's position and influence up until this, and how much of that has potentially changed at this point in time. I guess the thing that I'm glad about is that we're talking about it, that the internet has talked about it, that it's popped up on a lot of gaming sites and gaming podcasts, that it's not something that people just sloughed away as, oh, well, that's just stupid. And, it's just a segment of the audience. As gaming controversies have popped up and down over the last decade, right? And even the things, around Gamersgate and other places, that things get excused away, and there seems to be more accountability here for this. And maybe it's because it is a corporate action, but at least I'm glad that people are talking about it, and not just kind of sloughing it off as, oh, those silly gamers. So but again, back to the theme of the show. Really? Come on, guys. That's just, there's a lot more. It's a great example for a marketing class of what not to do as a PR firm. So,
Yeah, so Swiss said something that actually got me thinking, and I'm not trying to be funny here, but he mentioned, something about the technology part of it. Now, if they were doing this internally, like in their office, in their office building, I'm assuming they have an office building somewhere in, wherever they are. They have a network, they have firewalls, they have all these things. Wouldn't that channel be blocked? And if that's the case, then they had to have known what this was and unblocked that. Just on a purely technological standpoint. I'm assuming, like, I've never tried to get on it from work myself. And
on everything that I'm hearing about 8chan, it sounds like if you had a minimal web content filter, that would come up. Yes. So, but then again, like, all he has to do is turn his hotspot on his cell phone, and
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there's ways to get around it, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I guess that I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I remember at past jobs when we had the web content filter on, like, we didn't really watch it like a hawk. In other words, it was more just like, okay, we're putting this up there. We know people aren't going to be able to get to this junk, but I wasn't sitting there at my desk in IT land waiting to see if somebody, I got you, popped up. It would be more like, if we got approached and we had to do an investigation, we'd check the logs type thing.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure you can set it up to alert you, but I never did. So it's possible that he could have poked around and gotten stopped or something, and the rest of THQ or the THQ IT department would have been ignorant of the fact. And then, like I said, it's, if you have a cell phone, it's easy to get around. K-12. Right, yeah. It's really important to have these types of web filters. Like, in grade school, a lot of those kids aren't going to have cell phone access or something, so they're going to be more locked down.
Yeah, and I know just from where I'm at now, and mostly from where I'm at now, they put these filters up. It's obviously automatic. Yeah, and it's not like everything they're getting pinged on, because they'd probably get like emailed to death if that was the case. But they do have these automatic filters that are supposed to at least block it. You'll get the little website little error saying you can't go to this site, or it's not found, or whatever, whatever you have it set up as. But it was just kind of weird to me. But and then just the only other thing I was going to say was, there's that old saying, there's no such thing as bad publicity. That doesn't quite work, I think, nowadays. Now in the social media days, it's a whole different world out there. Like you said, he even if he thought, he was like, what, I don't care, I'm going to go on this, I'm going to go on this 8chan and do this. I know, I kind of know what's going on, on here, but I'm going to do it anyways. I mean, you got to think about the whole company when you're doing these kind of things. And obviously he's talking about, the games. So it's not like he was just doing it himself. Like, it was a personal thing. I mean, there's still going to be a problem, but I mean, obviously, that's, it's fine. That's your personal business if you want to do a personal anime. But he's doing something for the company, so it was just really weird that this came back around. And I don't know, it's just strange. Any other comments on good old 8chan, 4chan? All right, so let's jump.
I just want to say one last piece, right? I think all the things that you guys are saying leads to the fact that there was deliberate intentionality here, right? Like, this is not just an ignorance, that there is some type of intentionality, whether it's malicious or just or or
Cool factor or whatever. Bro.
ill-conceived or yeah, right. But this is
Egregiously
not an
foolish.
accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what that's what I was trying to get to, but without actually saying it. But yeah, I think they knew what was going on. So, but let's move on here. Let's move up a little bit in the internet here, and
We'll move up in the internet. But here's another thing where definitely somebody knew something was going on,
Yes.
and they're still dealing with it. So. Over the last couple of days, that there have been a series of stories out related to Anthem and PlayStation 4. That it started with some Reddit threads over the weekend related to Anthem crashing PS4s, potentially bricking them. This was something that I had heard about on a couple of different podcasts. Giant Beastcast talked about it in terms of having it crash on one of their PS4s. This is something I actually experienced on PlayStation 4 during the open demo of Anthem. So it's not like it is a new build type of issue that when it happened to me, it happened at a time when there was all kinds of particle effects going on the screen. My fan was humming more than No Man's Sky, and it shut the entire, not just crashed the game, but hard crashed my PlayStation 4 Pro down to, I had to unplug it and start it back up, and it had to my hard drive had to kind of reconfigure that. It gave you all the, like, if the power went off types of things. So this is happening. I mean, it seems like as one or two people, as some of those Reddit threads started to occur, it more and more, it picked up more traction, and more people were saying that it happened to them. And over the last 2 days, EA has announced that they are aware of it now, have asked people to help them diagnose it in terms of what's going on. There was a number of stories, and there's still a number of stories. I just did a search now. Even things like PC Mag and other places are talking about bricked systems. The most recent story seems like it's not actually bricked, that you just need to rebuild the database. If it appears like this, all this is to say, so this is a game that released 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago at this point, for the #1 leading console, and from a major third-party publisher. And here we are, we're talking about crashes, stability crashes, not even loading screens and all the other things that people had issues with Anthem. But now we're talking about just stability of a build for a AAA game. Prime,
Well,
you were going to say something. You had your mic off, but I was still on my rant.
I know. I didn't want to interrupt you. I was just going to ask you, and you have a Pro, right? A PS4 Pro?
Yes, I have a PS4 Pro.
And it didn't matter, like, if it was Pro or if it was normal, the normal original.
So it seems like people are reporting that it has happened on both. I shouldn't say it seems like. I've read stories where people are reporting that it is happening on both. It seems to, the more that I read, it seems like at least the people that are reporting it, there's a greater majority of them that are on a Pro. So I don't know if there would be a difference, in how something is being processed. But
it's just
that
been
seems
on
to be the case.
PlayStation so far, right? As far as we know.
It's only been on PlayStation that it's been reported on.
Right. This is on PC too, right?
It's on. Yeah, it's all. Yeah,
it's on
PC.
everything.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead, Swiss. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, going back, like a month, they had the demos, right? And people were kind of like, this, there's some good things, some bad things. It wasn't. I don't think coming out of the demos, people were like universally bashing it, but it was just like, this seems kind of early. And you heard the news stories about how, oh man, they've patched so much stuff, they've improved this, that, and everything. They must have been going to town, like, on fixes and edits. And when you're rushing things like that in a software shop, mistakes are going to happen. Like, there's like a joke, like 99 bugs in the code, 99 bugs in the code, take one down, patch it around, 128 bugs in the code. So it's like you can't just you can't rush these things because it's very easy to introduce new flaws when you're trying to fix current ones. It's not, software is an art, not a science. So it's I can understand how this happened looking at the stories going forward. They wanted this out there. This is just like, to me, this is the fault of EA's business arm. Like, right, they wanted this game out there. They wanted to get their foot in the door on their long tail community looter shooter type thing, and they felt it had to go out now. And when you do that, QA is the first thing to suffer. It is. It's just gonna, when the manager's looking at the Gantt chart and saying we need to get this, and this fixed, the QA part's gonna come off first. So, they gambled, and it seems like they're losing, because now that it's crashing, you started with lukewarm publicity, and now you're getting bad publicity. And I don't do people, like, are they willing to wait for it to get patched up and fixed and everything? You didn't have like an excellent game under the hood that's just crashing periodically. You had it's okay game, and then it crashes. I don't know how much patience people are going to have for this.
I think that's a good point, and especially I think you're absolutely right in terms of smashing one and creating 6 more. This game was coming in hot, right? I mean that is, as somebody who played it on the 15th, I think, right, when it was available to EA access and Origin access and Premier subscribers. Not early access, because that was not how it was built, but playing it when it was the full game out there a week before the official street date. Yeah, I mean, they came out with a day 1 patch the Wednesday before it was released, this on the 22nd, and they came out with another patch that same weekend, right? I mean, you're going back to the beta, or they called it a demo. It was supposed to be the exciting cross section that they said it was, and they were out there messaging that this was an older build, that yes, we're aware of these things, the walking speeds, here's the other things, that this was a 3-month-old or 2-month-old build. So they were pitching this in this is going to be okay, because we know about this, it's getting better. And even when they put the game out there for release, when they sent out review codes to reviewers, they were still patching up to release. And then even last week I played it again and had another 4.5 gigabyte patch. So I mean, to BioWare's credit, they're working on it, but they're working on it in this, exactly what you said, Swiss, in this kind of rushed fashion, trying to put out fires, but other ones are popping up all over the place.
So,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question. DB, did you just start seeing these problems recently, like within the last few days or so, or did you see them back when you had that early access playing it?
So the early access was only on Xbox and PC, and so
okay.
So this story seems to be, it really started to come out just within the last couple days, actually. So not even at release time. So I wonder if it is something, as Swiss was suggesting, that there was, in their rush to get out other fixes for load times and other types of glitches that were happening with lost weapons and quest markers and icons not triggering and getting stuck, or loot not dropping, all these different things that they were trying to patch within the first week, that as they were doing that, this has the potential to then have created something, at least within the PS4 build of this. Because no, I mean, I had a relatively stable time playing it on Xbox and on PC. I had a couple glitches. I had one crash for a live game. That's not so bad. I had, it was pretty stable. So this is where it does seem like this is something that that as things got, squashed and squished and other things came out the side.
I guess that's one that's one way to say it. I'm sorry, Swiss. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to ask, like, if we're kind of looking at this as, okay, they rushed it. Why did they rush it? What games are coming out over the next several months that EA may have felt like, okay, we don't want to go head to head against game X? I'm probably ignorant of something major, but I'm like thinking, like, what are the 800-pound gorilla games, on the schedule for 2019?
So I would say the one that they were probably very aware of, and tried to get out. I think one part certainly would be the financial quarter, but that's the end of March, right? They would have had this entire month to kind of push or at least delay it, right? Pull a Battlefield 5 and push it back for another few weeks to give them some time. I'm pretty sure that as they looked at that calendar and the 15th of March was sitting there, let me make sure that that's the right time. Yep, Friday the 15th, that Ubisoft's and Massive's The Division 2 launches at that time. So in this looter shooter space, that they were, I'm guessing that they were hopeful of trying to get something out and grabbing people before the next big wave of looter shooters. So that'd be my guess. And as somebody who spent, I don't know, 5 to 6 hours with the beta this past weekend, on PC and on Xbox with the Division 2, it's pretty stable. Load times are pretty good. It's definitely in a more polished state in this beta than what I've played in the release game of Anthem. That's not to say that there's not other problems, but the beta of the Division 2 felt better. I could see improvements from the private beta from the middle of February. It feels more robust. That there's, they don't need to go head to head, but I'm sure thinking that is both on gamers' minds and also probably in boardroom minds as well.
Yeah, I guess this is another, what they're thinking, because we saw this past holiday season with Fallout 76 coming out, and obviously there's all kinds of problems with that game, and obviously there's all kind of bad press, and how they just, Bethesda just got, lambasted about releasing the game like that, and then here they are a few months later, basically kind of doing the same thing. I guess they didn't have any, well, I guess this is a game breaking, bug or upgrade or whatever happened here, but there's other issues like just like you say, quality of life issues, and just I guess just kind of story wise too, and those kind of things that why would you release this game like that? And it just, I don't know, it's just weird to me that they saw what happened. They saw what happened a few months ago, and yet they still were like, all right, let's just throw it out there. I don't know if that's just like an EA thing or just gaming. Maybe this is just like a bigger gaming thing, in general, that a lot of times you do see these games come out and, oh, you know what, here's a day one patch, or what, we'll get to it next week, or in a few days, after it launches. But I don't know if we have, let's see, what time is it? I don't know if we have time to talk about it. But I don't know, I guess it's just something, I guess, after these two incidences, I'm hoping that these other companies are, seeing this and finally, realizing, oh, you know what, a day one patch, or, a patch, in a couple days to a week later, is not going to cut it anymore. People want, a full game, or more or less a full game, right when it comes out. Swiss, I'm sorry, you going to say something?
Just that I remember it might have been you in the flock talking about corporate silos and the inability for teams to communicate well with one another. And, this is purely speculation, but like looking at Fallout 76 and looking at what they're doing, just was the information not getting to the decision makers, or were they just, was it getting sugar coated as it went up the layers of, and I'm sure layers and layers and gateways of EA's Byzantine structure? I don't know. and again, it's speculation. I have no idea how EA is internally structured. They just strike me as the type of company that'd be Byzantine.
Yeah, I mean, you have obviously you have BioWare, their separate company, but then it could have been just EA, saying, hey, just throw it out there. We have to, we have to get it out. We have to, like DB said, maybe we got to meet our numbers. Maybe we just need something out there now, even though they just have a big hit that came out. And that was another thing. They just had Apex Legend coming out, and obviously that was a huge thing. I mean, I don't see why they couldn't have rode that for a little bit longer, and then a delayed Anthem. But I don't know. Obviously, those are two different type of games, but still.
Yeah, no, man, it's so much. I'm gonna love reading the postmortem on this at some point in time, right? Like the Jason Schreier, Kotaku, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels chapter related to the development of this game, because you guys are right. Like, sure, they must have had ad buys. That there was national TV out there advertising Anthem, but they could have kept those ad buys and started to build some press around it. Those ads were happening at the same time the beta or the demo was happening. Looking at the schedule, there's not a whole lot in April, right? I mean, April is Days Gone, Yoshi. I mean, there's not like a huge game here where they couldn't have pushed it back into the next fiscal year.
Don't be downing on Yoshi now.
And even May. I think May is Rage. So, but there was plenty of space in April to give it some breathing room. And if you're a month out after a looter shooter, some of those people, the hardest of hardcores, have already burned through everything. And so, I do wonder in the silo aspect of this, where if they attempted to make a case that, hey, Apex is doing really well, we don't need this to release this fiscal year. Let's give it another month or two and allow it time to get a few more passes of polish, because we're going to get better press, we're going to get better sales. Because now at this point, I mean, now there's news stories out here. It's a week and a half after release, and it's already $10 or more off on Amazon. And at what point, when do they, they're going to start losing revenue on those discounted sales?
It's interesting you pointing out like the calendar, but you're right about the polish, because like, what was the most positive things you've been hearing about and the ad buys? What was the most positive things you've been hearing about Anthem? It's been the game's pretty, like it looks cool. The demo, like not the demos, but the like the videos that they would show, like when
flying around is fun.
Yeah,
and cool.
They could have just let the hype build, and if somebody is like deciding between the Division 2 and Anthem, they're not going to sit. The games are distinct enough where I think it's reasonable to assume that you'd say, like, I might try the Division out, but I'm gonna wait maybe to commit until I see Anthem, because I think that there was a lot of intrigue before. I think for me, the intrigue kind of started to die after I touched the game. So that like you said, a couple of months, maybe a little bit of polish, and we could be having an entirely different story. But
yeah, well, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I agree with you, right? I mean, this was a game that I was excited about. I really wanted to enjoy and play. And it probably is. In 6 months from now, it could be a really well polished game. That's not to say that the Division 1, Destiny 1, all had plenty of depth and problems, but they also functioned, right? They did not crash a system. They did not, they may have been thin and had a limited end game, but they, as a piece of software, they functioned. And that's where I think Anthem is sitting in an awkward spot, is that even if people would have forgiven the fact that you were grinding out the same stronghold at the end of a mission, at the end game, as they waited for things, but it's a lot harder to forgive questline bugs and loot drop problems in terms of not getting things, or disconnect or crash issues. So, Prime, what were you going to say?
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, that's a pretty big deal. It's shutting down your whole system. I don't think I've ever had a game that, or even a time that I can remember that it's ever happened to me, whether it was a game or just the system itself. But I mean, that's a pretty big deal. That if you had to like totally like shut down and you know and then come back up and it's like doing all this stuff in the background. I mean, that's serious. I mean, that's just not, oh, hey, I can't get past the story because of this game breaking bug. Let me, shut down and redo my save. This is like shutting down everything. So I don't know. I think we could probably go on for a while here and, just talk about, how this might affect, games going forward, or, even this has happened in the past. And, yeah, you do have some valid points that, yeah, maybe in a couple of months, couple of weeks, or probably more than a couple of weeks, a few months, it's going to look good. Hopefully, they're going to keep working on it. I mean, BioWare, they've never done a game like this, but they've done other games where they've had a good track record on, and maybe they just got a little bit over their head this time. I mean, who knows? But we'll have to see what happens here in the coming weeks and months. And if they can fix it or not, hopefully, especially if it's crashing systems. But any other comments on this story or anything else that you wanted to jump into? We still have a little bit of time here. If you want to jump into any of the other news stories that came out this past week. If not, if you have any last comments on anything from tonight.
So do we want to tease the fact that the rumor for tomorrow is that we get a diskless Xbox One S? And what that looks like, right? I mean, that seems to be the ongoing rumor that started to float around related to, and this has been out for quite a while, but the date of this week has now started to be picked up. The one I read off of Windows Central makes it seem more and more reliable. So this is the
springtime, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, we'll see.
Well,
right?
I mean, the rumor was they're saying the springtime.
The rumor was springtime, and now it says, now it's coming in the next week or so.
Oh, wow. I didn't see that one. Yeah, I just saw that about sometime in the spring, which even, you'd figure something like this, maybe they'd want to throw out during E3, but I don't know. This is another one that's kind of odd, though, because, I mean, this was kind of like when they did the Xbox S, but then they said, oh, hey, here's another, here's their Xbox One, Xbox One X, which they didn't call it the X. It was not Scarlet. I forgot the name of it before it became Xbox One X. And here's this, even more powerful system. It's like, why would you do that when more than likely we'll probably hear something maybe next year about a new system, or even sometime this year, who knows? But I don't know. I just thought it was kind of weird on the timing of this system, or if it's just something. I mean, obviously, this is not going to, have them win the war on the consoles for this generation. But I mean, I guess they can get some more systems out there, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You're not going to save a lot of money on an optical drive, so it's not like a hardware money saver. So
maybe things to come. Maybe.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. If I guess you can justify slashing the price on that and just trying to get some people to subscribe to your services. Or it's just an experiment to see what the appetite for it is, the services. But I think I agree with you that the timing is odd, because on the one hand you have the X, and then now you have the streamable thing. But we know, like, on the horizon, we got next gen stuff coming. So it's kind of odd to me a little bit.
So the streamable piece, though, if it doesn't have an optical drive but it has a hard drive, it wouldn't be drastically different than how many of us play Xbox One games at this time. Even Xbox One, you have to go in, or at least you used to have to go in and change the setting so that when you would install a disc, that it would still end up downloading it off the internet rather than installing it from the disc. And that changed over time, but that was an original setting in there as well. That as long as it has a hard drive, or you can connect a hard drive to it, you could still download something. I do wonder how much of this is, as you said, Swiss, kind of testing the waters, or giving people the chance to get upset about it now before they get to the next generation. But we do have GDC coming in 2 weeks. So March 18th through the 22nd is GDC. And so I wonder if there's some type of timing around that if they get something out before then, it allows them to start talking about some of the other things that they'll have at their press conference, or not the press conference, but they have a panel at GDC, which we talked about on this show, related to Xbox Live on a variety of other platforms like mobile and the Switch.
Yeah, Swiss, were you gonna say something?
Does anybody have anything else on Xbox? Because I was going to change the subject.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Quick hit. Prime posted this, but it got me excited. Nintendo Online next March's releases Kid Icarus and Star Tropics. And Star Tropics is a game that is one of my like nostalgia games, so I'm pretty excited about that. And it's a game that doesn't seem to get a lot of love from Nintendo fans, so I think it's cool that it's coming.
Can you give us a quick hit on what's the gameplay? What's the game about?
It's kind of like a it's set like in like an island. Kind of all the missions are around these islands in the South Pacific, and your mic is like in modern times, well, in the 80s, and you go and you're looking for your uncle who's like a scientist or something that disappears, and so you end up like seeing all these islanders and discovering like this kind of, I don't want to say it's a conspiracy, but it's aliens, right? So it's kind of just an interesting game. You start off by doing like, I mean, you have some missions in a haunted graveyard, and you end up in like a spaceship. So it's fun. It was like a 2D. It wasn't like a platformer. So
it was more Zelda-like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The movement was a little odd, but you know, you get different weapons with different abilities as you progress through. You start off with a baseball bat and a yo-yo, and that's your combat. So but I remember playing it a lot, and I remember my dad playing it. A fun little tidbit, which I wonder how they're gonna enable it in this. Like there might be something in the menu, but literally like the game, halfway through they're like, oh, you need the secret code to continue, and the game had shipped with a letter from like your uncle Jones or whoever, I forget his name. Your uncle had a letter to you, and you had to put it in water for like hidden ink to show you the code that you had to put in the game. And I remember my dad had got it used, so he did not have the letter. And I don't remember how he tracked that down, but I remember our cartridge he wrote in Sharpie on the back of the cartridge so he wouldn't forget it. And like that was a game that my dad would play, and I would go in and play the missions after him. But anyway.
That sounds like a counselor's corner for Nintendo Power, right? What's the code?
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah.
Like that. But
maybe they can just put a QR code in the electronic instructions or something that you gotta take a picture of.
But yeah, Zelda's probably a little bit more action oriented than the original NES Zelda, but definitely in that spirit.
Yeah, I don't think I ever played that game, so it'll be a good opportunity to try it out. All right, guys, I think that is it for tonight. Anybody have any plugs or anything, last comments or anything? No? All right, so please keep on the E2KG network. We have the What's Your Issue podcast, which is the comic book reviews of the past, I believe, week. We have the Stream Cave, which is a newer podcast that just started. There's about 3 episodes now. Excuse me. That's about streaming, the streaming culture and technology that, the streamers use, how they stream out there, just, issues that pop up when you're streaming. And then also there is It's Another Thing, and this is the movies edition where they, I believe they go through like Netflix or Hulu and Amazon, stuff like that, kind of do the originals. I think mostly the originals for those services, and just kind of pick one and kind of talk about it, review it. So So check those out coming up this week. I believe the Stream Cave is, I think, every 2 weeks. So I think there's one coming up either this week or there might have been one last week that he hasn't posted up yet, but that should be coming soon. And then come back here next Tuesday for our GX show where we go through our picks plays, which may be evolving once again. We'll see. We'll see how we're gonna get around that. And then we talk about our playlists from the past couple weeks or so. So join us then. DB Swiss, thank you for joining me tonight. It's been a pleasure as usual. A very interesting podcast. I wasn't sure how this one was going to go, but it went pretty well. I'm pleasantly surprised, and not because of you guys, but I was kind of rushing here too and doing things. So,
Shucks.
But yes, thanks for being on. Thanks for putting up with my bumbling and stumbling here a little bit. I forgot at the end of the show that I had to do the social media stuff, so I was trying to do that. That's why I was kind of doing quick hits at the end there. But I got everything going. So this has been the Enough to Keep Going podcast. This has been episode number 83, our deep dive show. Thanks everybody for watching, and keep on gaming.